Hi audience, hope you would be fine. Today we would be discussing the deconstruction as a theory of criticism. Deconstruction is a very recent theory. It evolved after 1960s and it is considered or regarded as the most difficult to understand, and its analysis is also a very challenging one for the students and the practitioner as well. So we would be discussing this theory in two parts. Today we would be discussing just in the introduction of the main concepts of the deconstruction, and in our next vlog or the video we would be doing some practical analysis of the deconstructionist strategy of reading. Before going to the long details of this theory, first I have just to discuss with these concepts that we would be dealing with these concepts in our discussion ahead. First, deconstruction considers that meaning and truth are relative, means there is no final or ultimate truth. Things, meanings are relative. Relative means with reference to the theory of relativity, means with the changing sign and signifier the meaning also changes. What might be the yours meaning cannot be mine's meaning. What can be your understanding that cannot be my understanding. What can be your sense of self cannot be mine. What might be more preferred for you that may be not preferable for me. So meaning, values, truth, purposes are relative from person to person. So deconstruction basically is not, we might be having some preoccupation that deconstruction is a philosophy. It's not philosophy. It is a strategy of reading and understanding meaning from the text. It deals with the such words like center, decenter, self. It talks about the Western metaphysics. Means Western metaphysics has just proposed some stagnant, standardized definitions that who can be the superior, who can be the inferior, who can be the center, what's the good, what's the truth. Western metaphysics has proposed such concepts since Plato to before the theory of post-structuralism. So deconstruction basically challenged the Western metaphysics as well. Then more importantly, phonocentrism is a concept in this. Derrida has talked about logocentrism as well. Derrida has talked about the concept of presence and absence in this well. So these are the major key concepts which we are going to discuss in our discussion ahead. So first, we come to know, we have to keep in mind as that the deconstruction has been taken from the post-structuralism. Even in present times, deconstruction and post-structuralism are used interchangeably. So in 1960s, the new strategy for textual analysis. Keep in mind this post-structuralism and deconstruction, they are strategy of textual analysis. They are an alternate approach to interpreting literature. They are an approach, means we do the analysis with this approach. It's a strategy of doing textual analysis. It is a strategy of extracting meaning from the text. So like structuralism, its immediate predecessors, this new movement is best, means I'm talking about post-structuralism, as an activity of reading strategy, not as a philosophy. The same is the case with the deconstruction. Unlike other schools of criticism, post-structuralism possesses neither an accepted body of doctrines or methodologies, rather provides answers about the meaning of text. Means the post-structuralism and deconstructionism, they are not description of some preceding philosophies, existing philosophies, but they provide the tools of analysis, how to extract meaning from the text. They provide the answers about the meaning of the text. This critical activity asks questions. They means they pose the question, endeavoring to the show that what a text claim it says and what it actually says are discernibly different. Means what can be the agenda. For example, for your understanding, I give you an example. If someone text is describing the very destructive end of some evil, means there is a person who is a bad kidnapper or gangster. So in the text, that gangster is destroyed, that gangster is punished severely. So what is going to be on one level is the meaning that a gangster was punished. It is the what is the text saying, but what actually the text is preaching are giving the meanings that gangsters should not, one should not adopt the attitude of a gangster, one should not be the gangster. So what I am perceiving the meaning that has not been presented or not been said by that text. So by deconstructionist understanding, what we perceive through the text that is not said actually in the text. So therefore it is a criticism, and how we come to know what is the meaning that is my own perception and what is not said in the text. In this way comes the meanings. By casting doubt on most previously held theories, post-structuralism declares that a text has an infinite number of possible interpretations. This is more important, which we are focused. That any text is not having a single meaning. It has infinite. Infinite means unlimited possible interpretations. And as there are the readers of a text, there might have been more interpretations. For example, if there is a text, you read from your own perspective, I read it from my own perspective. So as there are the readers of a text, so are their interpretations. And the interpretations themselves means any text is not having a single unified ultimate meaning. So the post-structuralist posit are just as creative and important as the text being interpreted. Means as many people read more that text, they create the new meanings, and this process of creating new meanings keeps on changing forever. Although the term post-structuralism presently refers to a variety of the theories such as new historicism that have developed after structuralism, today the term post-structuralism and deconstruction are often used interchangeably, coined by its founding father Jacques Derrida. Jacques Derrida has been the proponent of post-structuralism, and then he talked about his own theory of deconstruction. Actually, he has not just announced his theory as the deconstruction. He has never said that today I am this is my. He has presented his conception of deconstruction in bits and pieces in his different essays. Through his essays, actually, he proposed that he is of the view that truth is not ultimate, and in this way we should have to engage ourselves with the text. So what was his philosophy of engaging to a text for meaning? That was basically his theory of deconstruction. Deconstruction first emerged on the American literary stage in 1966 when Derrida, a French philosopher and the teacher, read his paper Structure, Signs and the Play at the Johns Hopkins University Symposium. Derrida himself, however, want deconstruction dubbed as a critical theory. Means he never claimed that his uh, theory of deconstruction is a theory or a school of criticism or a modern method of literary criticism or a philosophy. Nowhere in Derrida's writing does he state the encompassing tenets of his critical approach, nor does he ever present a codified body of deconstructive theory or methodology. I have already talked about this. So, what he gives his views in bits and pieces throughout his works, he believes that he cannot develop a formalized statement of his rules for reading. Means, rules there cannot be a single unified rules of interpretations in the writings. Unlike a unified treatise, Derrida claims that his approach to reading strategic device. This is more important. He says that a reader should have his own strategic device of extracting meaning. Therefore, he provides the readers those strategic devices that by this way you can extract meaning, by this way you can extract the new interpretation, than a methodology. More a strategy or approach to the literature than a school or the theory of criticism. Such theories of criticism, he believes, must identify with a body of the knowledge that they decree to be true or contain truth. It's very interesting. He says that how the theories in the previous times has been claiming that this is their tenets, these are their major truth pillars. So as truth is relative, so how he himself was worried by the existence of such theories. It is this assertion that the truth at the core of metaphysical ideals can be definitely believed, articulated, and supported that Derrida and Deconstruction wish to dispute and deconstruct. So, means before this, it has been the perception that the person whom you love is the center of your universe, of this universe. So Derrida is of the view that you might not be in love with a single person. You might love your dog. Dog means your pet. You might love your house. You may so there are countless centers of your universe. There is not only one single center. Because deconstruction utilizes previously formulated theories from other school of criticism, coins many words from their newly established ideas, and challenge belief long held before the Western culture. Many students, teachers, and even the critics avoid studying deconstruction, fearing its supposed complexity. I have already talked that people says that deconstruction may be misleading to one's belief, and while some it was that what's sad about the deconstruction, that it deconstruct the meanings, it dismantle the meaning, it misleads the reader, and it misleads the text into textual interpretations, but the meaning is not so. If, as it is a strategy, if we are going to apply it strategically, then definitely it would be giving new interpretations. So one thing on which you believe and I believe, that truth is not final. Even without doing the deconstruction, without reading the theory of deconstruction, still there are the people who are illiterate, but they believe on the concept of third space. They believe on many truths. They have a notion of the public space. They have a notion of the respect for the other's opinion, finality, justification of others' opinion. So all these have been, it's not only about the deconstruction, it's more the newness of interpretation and the meaning. But by providing deconstruction and its assumption into three smaller areas of the study, rather than plunging directly into some of its complex terminology, we can begin to grasp this approach to the textual analysis. In order to understand the deconstruction and its strategic approach to a text, then we must first gain a working knowledge of the historical or philosophical roots of structuralism, a linguistic approach to the textual analysis that gained critical and popularity in 1950s and 60s. Now we would be talking about some history of that. From this school of criticism, Derrida borrows the basis of and the starting point of his deconstructive strategy. After examining structuralism, means out of nowhere, Derrida has never proposed his theory out of nowhere. Before this, Ferdinand de Saussure's philosophy of theory of structuralism and then post-structuralism, they has basically shattered the modern world. They have shattered the old strategies of reading, old strategies of developing meaning. That they have revolutionized the new interpretation. They have revolutionized the new readings of the text. Therefore, he has taken already the existing theories and the way, the strategy which the structuralism and post-structuralism was doing towards the meaning. He takes most of his ideas from there. We must then investigate the proposed radical changes Derrida makes in the Western philosophy and metaphysics. Such changes Derrida readily admits literally turns Western metaphysics on its head. Definitely, Derrida's deconstruction has, just dismantled the Western notions, ideal notions of universalism, truth, finality, superpower. All these Derrida has deconstructed all the big philosophies, big shells of the meanings of the Western philosophy. And finally, we must master some new terminology coupled with new philosophical assumption and their corresponding methodology approach to the textual analysis if we wish to understand and utilize deconstruction approach to interpreting a text. Now, we have had some understanding, a general outline of the deconstruction. Now we are looking for assumptions. What are the assumptions which deconstruction as a strategic device of reading has? For example, believing that this, structuralism, Ferdinand de Saussure, and the structuralism and the post-structuralism, they have been focusing on the concept of sign signifier and the signified, and they have said that there is no direct relationship between the sign signifier and the signified. So means meanings are arbitrary. They are not any single conventional mode of extracting meaning. Means meaning are not embedded in the words. They are relative and they are extracted. They are perceived by the reader. Means meanings are not hidden in the text, but they are interpreted by the readers in his own understanding and knowledge. Derrida now begins his process of turning Western philosophy in its head. He boldly asserts that entire history of Western metaphysics from Plato to present is founded upon the one classic notion, and he interestingly he takes that as a fundamental error. Means the whole Western philosophy, whole Western knowledge, it's not only the Western, as he was from America, so he himself is talking, means all the knowledge of the universe up till before the arrival, before the introduction of the deconstruction theory from Plato to present, the all knowledge of the world has been developed on the classic and fundamental error, and that was of a the searching of a transcendental signified an external point of reference upon which one may blind a concept of philosophy. For example, means before this, they have been the knowledge has all the knowledge has been focusing on the construction of a ultimate meaning, ultimate referential point from which all the meanings are coming. So what Derrida purpose, Derrida says that there is not only a single truth or center in this world. When there is no ultimate center, then all centers are of no value. Uh, Creating any of other center is basically decentering one's your previous center. I would be giving example on it. Once found, this transcendental signified would provide ultimate meanings, being the origin of origins, reflecting itself, and as Derrida says, providing a reassuring end to the reference from sign to sign. For example, usually here the example of God is given. For example, from where I extract the meaning, I extract the meaning from a text, and there was a person, he wrote the text, and from those texts their meaning has been coming from the prophets to then ultimate source of meaning is considered as a God. So Derrida says that when the interpretation of God is particular to every person, then how we can, for example, a Christian has his own perception of God, a Muslim has his own perception of God, a Buddha has his own perception of God, and as there are many religions, so every religion has its own perception of God, then how there can be a universal understanding of God among the individuals. So he says that even the God has different interpretations in their different religions, and even within a religion every individual has its own interpretation of God. So how we can uh, pose how we can hold God as the center of meaning, God as the center of uh, final object of truth. Truth means, I'm not saying in this about the truth of God. God is the truth, but means our perception, our meaning of the God, they cannot be the same one. It would in essence guarantee to those who believe in it that they do exist and have meaning. For example, if we pose it that I and the self is a transcendental signified, then the concept of self becomes the unifying principle upon which I structure my world. Means, if I develop myself, means objects, concepts, ideas, and even the people only take a meaning in my world if I filter them through my unifying ultimate signified self. So when self is different, unlike other signified, the transcendental signified would have to be understood without comparing it to other signified or the signifiers. In other words, its meaning would be originate directly within self, not differently or rationally, as does the meaning of all these signified others. Here I would be making an explanation of it. These transcendental signifies means what combines of myself. That might be my knowledge, that might be my dress, that might be my id, that might be my ego, then my superego. All these things would be creating my a sense of self, and then they provide me as the center. Means I consider myself as the center of meaning, allowing all those who believed in them to structure their ideas of reality, and then these centers of truth, such as a center of meaning, could not subject itself to a structural analysis, for by so doing it would lose its place as a transcendental signified to another center. Uh, as I was talking that I consider myself as a center, means myself as a center. So my sense of self is mine own, and when you says myself, for example, in simple understanding I would be say that I say myself am Abdul Rashid. So myself would be associated with the knowledge, with the body, with my own perceptions of being in the universe, my own knowledge about, my own understanding about the universe, my own sense of self. uh, and when you say that I am Abdul Rahman, I am Abdul Kareem, then your sense of self would be your own. So, in simple understanding, if the population of Pakistan is 22 trillion, so there are 23 trillions concepts of self. Every individual has its own self. So the concept of self vary from person to person. Got my point? And all these selves are different to the self of mine. Means the self of Prime Minister Imran Khan would be different from my own mind sense of self. So there are many selves as there are the individual. So there is not a single unified concept of self. For example, if I declare the concept of self to be my transcendental signified and then learn that my mind or the self is composed of the it, the ego, the superego, I could no longer hold the self or to be my transcendental signified. In the process of discovering the three parts of my conscious and unconscious mind, I have both structurally analyzed and decentered self. Even we decentered ourself as well. Means, you might have been saying that every person is a combination of good and bad. So if every person is a combination of good and bad, then what actually he is? He is not the center of good and he is not the center of badness. Got my point? So even a single person to whom we call him as a center, he himself is a decentered of his center. Self, thus negating it as the transcendental signified. According to Derrida, Western metaphysics has invented a variety of terms that function as centers, means God, reason, origin, being, essence, truth, humanity, beginning, end, and self, to name a few. All these means he has been Western academians have been talking about, our Western philosophy has been talking about. But Derrida says that all these concept of if we take all these concept in Western metaphysics, they seem some more materialistic, more some sort of visible realities and stagnant and static realities, but actually they are not. As they are rational, they keep on changing from reference to reference, from changing the perspective. Each operates as a concept of term that is the self-sufficient and self-originating and serve as a transcendental signified. This Western possibility for the desire of a center means there is not a in Western metaphysics actually has been creating a desire of center while there is no center in this universe. If we would be, one thing which I that might be my personal statement, that if we are going to create a center, then we are moving to destruction. Our life on this universe is not possible. Derrida names logocentrism, and he says that we people are developing our, we are habitual to logocentrics. These realities are constructed, are perceived and developed through the logocentrism, and every individual is dependent upon the logocentrism. Logo means knowledge, center means logos. These written words are the knowledge. This Western possibility of the desire center, Derrida names logocentrism, the belief that there is an ultimate reality or the center of truth that can serve as the basis for all thoughts and actions. So logocentric word the center of truth or ultimate reality is not possible. If we are going to create any such sort of center, then definitely we would be moving towards destruction. Then the life is not, social life is not possible. If I say I am the only true man in this world, then how you can be the true? That we can never totally free ourselves from our logocentric habit of thinking. But this is the problem, that we always keep on thinking this. Therefore remains the conflict in the society. And our inherited concept of the universe, Derrida readily admits, to any transcendental signified is to be caught up automatically in the terminology that allow that centering concept to operate. For example, if the concept self function as my center, then I then discover my unconscious self. Means about this I have already talked about. If uh, I am the combination basically of consciousness and unconsciousness. My consciousness is the decenter of my unconsciousness, which is the center. Means through my consciousness I come to my unconsciousness. So I am the combination of two different things. I automatically place in motion a binary opposition, are two opposing concepts, the self and the unconscious self. By decentering and questioning the self, I may cause the unconscious self to become the new center. By questioning the old center, I may establish a new one. By in simple words, it is this, that we always keeps on changing our centers. We once we center our decenter we develop our new interpretations, then we decenter our old center, and in this way we keeps on changing. And this happens all in our life. For example, if new knowledge, if we are going to new ideology, new belief, is the decentering of the old one. In our whole life, our philosophy, our actions keeps on, our preferences are keeps on changing from one object to another, one even one goal to another goal. When I was in matriculation, achieving 700 marks was my goal. That was my most preferred, centered, most desired goal at that time. But when I was in FSC, my goal was the new one. In my graduation, my goal was the other one. So even we keeps on changing our goals. So in this way we decentered our goals as well. So what might be my goal at the moment, it has never been my goal 10 years earlier. And what is my goal right now, it would never be my goal 10 years in future. So even our goals, our ultimate desires keeps on changing. So this is how deconstruction works. Since the establishing of one center of universally automatically means that the other is the decenter, Derrida concludes that Western metaphysics is based on the conceptual opposition. Means for each center there exist an opposing centers, means God, mankind, for example. In addition, Western philosophy decree that in each of these binary oppositions are the two opposing centers, one concept is superior. For example, in logos, speaking is preferred over writing. We are going to discuss it sooner. That the one is superior and other is defines as the inferior, are the opposite of the center. If America takes herself as superior at the center of civilization, then it definitely consciously construct the concept of uncivility and the third word, marginalized one. We know the truth, for instance, because we know deception. We know good because we know the bad. So in this way, means knowledge, this logocentric knowledge moves in the binaries. It is the creating of these hierarchical binaries as the basis for the Western metaphysics to which Derrida objects. Derrida basically deconstructed has object raised the questions and objections against the Western metaphysics. Derrida declares that one element which always be in superior position while the other becomes inferior. According to this way of thinking, the first or the top element in the following list of here is the list of very first of this list is the superior and the other is inferior. For example, man is preferred over woman, human is preferred over animal, soul is preferred over body, good is preferred over bad. Most importantly, Derrida decrees that Western thought has long privileged speech over writing. This privilege of speech over writing, Derrida calls as phonocentrism, means the speech. Phone means sound. Sound is more preferred than logocentrism. In placing speech in the privileged position, phonocentrism treats writing as inferior. We value, Derrida says, as a speaker words more than the speaker's writing, for words imply presence. The concept of presence means sound is more preferred in here it implies the sense of presence, means dominant means presence. Through the vehicle of spoken words, we supposedly learn directly from the speaker is trying to say. From this point of view, writing becomes a more copy of speech as an attempt to capture the idea that we have once spoken. Whereas speech implies presence, writing signifies absence, and thereby placing into action another binary of opposition as presence and absence. For example, from this online classes of during the COVID, we come to know that as a teacher, the concept of presence has been shake. Therefore, word has disturbed on the concept of classrooms. Our concept of presence was supposed to be in the classroom. So during COVID, the word was felt a very difficulty in understanding the concept of presence to be in the camera, in front of the camera, to be on in online class. So therefore it has been more disturbing for the word to absorb the concept of presence. Since phonocentrism is based on the assumption that the speech conveys the meaning or the direct idea of the speakers better than the writing, therefore they prefer phonocentrism as assumes as a logocentric way of thinking that the self is the center of meaning and can best ascertain ideas directly from other selves through the spoken words. Means through speaking, the self declares its presence, its significance, and its beings, means existence. It means the person who speaks is more preferred, it justifies existence. Accordingly, Derrida coins the phrase metaphysics of presence to emphasize ideas such as logocentrism, phonocentrism, the operation of binary opposition, and other notions that Western thought. I'm not going to make you confused by the end of this my video. I would be concluding Deconstruction as well. That the Western thought holds the concerning language and metaphysics, his objective is to demonstrate the shaky foundations upon which such beliefs have been established. By deconstructing the basic premises of metaphysics of presence, Derrida believes that he gives us a strategy of reading that opens up a variety, this is my conclusions, variety of new interpretations thereunto, unseen by those who are bound by the restraints of the Western thought. It was not only the Western thought, it has been the every thought of every, means the people have been developing only a singular, unified, generic meaning, while Derrida provided a strategy of creating multiple meanings. And if this it is a strategic device of creating multiple interpretations in the meaning, so in that strategy there is not only a single concept is involved, there are it is basically a tools of interpreting. So deconstruction does not only hold a singular point of center and the decenter. It has its own challenges against the Western metaphysics thought of creating meaning of ultimate reality. So, the deconstruction basically has released the word from singular ultimate interpretation of a text. Means if there is a text, there are variety of new interpretations. We are really thankful to the deconstruction for providing us uh, uh, a thousand interpretation which was to be considered as a single monolithic interpretation in the past. With this, I seek permission. Goodbye. Thank you.